Well, we didn't have all of those things going on at the same time. So tomfoolery. So like when I was living in Cancun when I met Chris, I was writing full time. That was my day job. I was a writer. So I was doing website content, I was doing travel guides. I was a freelancer. So I had a business called Complete Writing Solutions, and that's all I did. Like 6 hours a day, I just wrote content for people, at least six to eight, and then editing. Um, when I started doing my own travel guides and was building up all that stuff, I did that in the afternoons. So I would work, I would get up at 4, like I always do, work until about 10. Chris would get up around 10 because she worked nights. I would go meet Chris and we would go around town and hang out because we were dating. So we would go to the beach, we would go to the islands, we would go do things, and I would just document all of that stuff with her as my girlfriend. And that's all, that stuff is all out there. Like you can go, if you want to go back and look at all that stuff, like meeting her, dating her, all that stuff is all on the old travel blog channel. Um, and so I would just work during the mornings and do the other stuff with her in the afternoons. And then eventually, I wrote a book and sold that book, and the book paid enough money in year one sales that I was able to just stop writing for other people and go full time on creating my own content. And that's just been a natural progression ever since then. The homestead didn't come along until much later. But the way it worked then was like, Chris and I would spend 3 or 4 hours a day together. We were dating, and then eventually, when the travel blog got big enough and we started running workshops, she quit her job to come help me manage the workshops and everything. And that's when she started doing all that stuff. And then that's just been a natural evolution. Since probably about 2013, I think it was about 6 months before we got married was when she moved in full time, and we started just going all in together. And when you live together and when you live together like that, you live together and you work together, you have so much quality time together that there's not really ever a need to find a balance. This is going to be a great video to clip out. Um, because the work-life balance just happens because you're living together and working together. We actually got asked that question on a photo shoot one time in a different manner. We were doing publicity for this little bed and breakfast in Cancun. This has been years ago. It was a Canadian guy who had married a local girl, and he had been living there for years, and they had a bed and breakfast together. But they had gone and lived in Canada and came back to Cancun together. But they asked us on the photo shoot when we were there doing the shoot, like, do you guys like ever do anything for yourselves? And it's like, of course we do, but the reality is that when you do what you love and you love what you do, you don't really ever need to take time off. Like, you're just always doing the thing that you love. And so for us, it was like, if we're going to go have a beach day, we're also going to record that and put it out on YouTube and create Instagram content around it and share it on the blog, because we're getting to do the thing we love, monetize it, and share it with people. And there are absolutely moments that you don't record, and dinners that you go to that are just for you, and you go watch movies together, and you exercise together, and you do other things together. You eat together, like, you go have morning bike rides and yoga retreats and drink coffee, and there's all sorts of stuff that you do together that are not on camera. But when you're living and working with someone, the work-life balance, at least for us, has always just been sort of natural. She has always had her interests, I have my interests. We combine for probably about 70% of the day, and the other 30% is she's doing her stuff, I'm doing my stuff. Here in the office, I'm usually live for 3 to 4 hours, and whenever I'm streaming, she's doing whatever she's doing. She will often come in here. Anybody who's on my streams long term has seen her come in. Like, she'll come in and sit down and chat when she's having her coffee first thing in the morning. She'll bring breakfast in sometimes, or lunch, or whatever. But usually the way it works is I get up at 4 o'clock, She gets up about 6. So I have a 2-hour run where there's nobody up but me. So I get up, I feed the cats, I do all the cat duties, start the stream, make the coffee, and then she'll wake up about 2/3 of the way through my stream. I usually wrap up about 7:38, so I've gotten a 3 to 4 hour stream in, and then I go have breakfast with her, and then we talk about our day. We do things together. Like yesterday, we had to go run errands. Today, we're gonna go up on the roof, and well, actually, no, that's not true. Today, I think our grandniece is coming over today, and we're about to start babysitting again. I think. Um, and then Chris has to go to a doctor appointment. But yeah, we spend from about 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. We are together all day, every day, doing different things, but we're in the same house together and helping each other in projects and stuff. But from like 4 to 8, I'm doing my stuff. She's still sleeping. Then she gets up and does her chores. Then we do stuff together. And then at 3 o'clock, when I come in for my second stream, I usually work from 3 to 7 at that block. And when I'm doing that is when she goes out and does all of her homestead stuff. So duck chores, chicken chores, fixing fence, collecting eggs, cleaning the chicken coop, doing all that stuff that she likes to do. And then in the evenings, we'll meet up again for a couple of hours and like watch a TV show or watch a movie together. Or if she's, she might be reading a book, in which case I'll just go scroll TikTok or something. So, but I think when you live together and work together, we've been together now for 15 years, I think. It just, there's a natural progression of the relationship where the work-life balance just sort of, if you, you know, if you love what you do, I think that work-life balance comes naturally. I do realize the question was more towards when you are first starting and balancing a 9 to 5, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into it. Because even in the very beginning, when I had clients, and she has often worked, like, even when we moved to Mexico City, the first 2 years we were there, maybe a year and a half, she went out and got another job because she wanted to. And I was like, you do what you want to do. And we didn't have all the animals and stuff. So she went and worked for about a year and a half. And then eventually, after about a year and a half, decided that she wanted to just take some time off and do some other stuff. And she got into doing, we were working on that tabletop project, so she stopped to do artwork for our tabletop in the game studio, for the second game studio. So then she was working with my brother and I on that project, doing artwork, probably about 6 hours a day. And that was a couple of years of work for her. So, yeah. I better scroll down and see if there's any follow-ups to that before I timestamp this. What's up, Gray? Lurk mode engage. In some regard, right time, right place. Yeah, a little bit, sure. Lou says 32 years together and we find a balance. I think anybody who's in a long-term relationship, if you have to find balance, otherwise it falls apart. I mean, it is hard work to make a long-term relationship last.